Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Zaleski Sports Show. Happy Mother's Day yesterday, all the moms out there. Jason Zaleski here. Steve May was right there, so happy Mother's Day to Lindsay, your mother, Rachel, my mother, Linda, and all the other mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day yesterday to you all. Hope you had a great day. Threat of snow yesterday never materialized, so I guess that was good, yes. Right? That's a good thing. So we're going to talk about... we'll talk about sports today here on the Zaleski Sports Show. Before we do, though, I need to set a foundation for how this conversation is going to go, and it has to do with facts and feelings. Something, Steve, has happened over... I'll be 45 in July. July 25th, start buying the gifts now. Cash usually is the best way. The last 15, 20% of my life, something happened out there that... in a lot of decision-making and a lot of people's way they go about it, maybe not more than half, I don't know what the percent of that is, but there has been this trend, we'll call it, where feelings supersede facts. I don't get it. Maybe I'm too old. All right, but that's what I've noticed has happened here in our country during the last, say, 5-8 years. Is a lot of times what I've noticed is the trend towards feelings matter more than facts. Cold, hard truth facts. The American Legion canceled their baseball season here in the state of Wisconsin on Wednesday, and then the news came out in a official, polished release on Saturday. And listen, I've got nothing but respect for the American Legion, for our veterans, and everything that the American Legion stands for. But they jumped the gun on this one. They just flat out jumped the gun on this cancellation. I've been involved with the American Legion since I was 8 years old. I was a bad boy. Post 54, Marshfield Blue Devils. I was the bad boy for a few years. Then I was the official scorekeeper for a few years after that. Eventually... I was a PA announcer at Reith's Field in Marshfield. Sporadic, not the full time. Guy that was doing that, he probably saw this young punk come in there with whatever it is I was doing and able to keep his job. That's right. I wasn't going after it either. I was just having fun. And then Steve and I and a cast of a few others broadcast nearly 80 American Legion baseball games just last summer, and had broadcast, I don't know, that was our third season of broadcasting American Legion baseball games, but nearly 80 games last summer. So we are huge fans of the American Legion, fully support the American Legion and its cause, and look forward to American Legion baseball. Again, we've made some great friends along the way. We've been looking forward to seeing them, and then we were told officially on Saturday that it's not going to happen. And the American Legion jumped the gun. They could have waited a couple weeks, maybe a couple weeks, but they jumped the gun. And as I read from their statement here, we'll see a lot about feelings, very little about facts in their statement. And here's what it says. This is Roger Matheson. He's the baseball commissioner. If I met Roger, I'd probably like him. But he jumped the gun here, and here's what he said. There were a number of factors that the board took under consideration, primarily the health of players, coaches, umpires, parents, fans, and volunteers involved in the program, facility availability, travel concerns, and the uncertainty on when sporting events will be allowed in Wisconsin contributed to the decision. Could all those things be true? They could be. We don't know yet on most of those, so he jumped the gun. He even says, the uncertainty on when sporting events will be allowed in Wisconsin contributed to the decision. Well, Mr. Matheson, I believe what you're saying is that's a consideration every year. Mm-hmm. What is also a consideration every year are the health of the players, coaches, umpires, parents, fans, volunteers. Yep. Travel concerns, that's a question mark every year. You've got fundraisers that thankfully turn out well, that are able to pay for the travel But that's an uncertainty every year. If your fundraiser goes bad, something happens, you may not be able to afford a bus. And so these are all feelings, Mr. Matheson. These are all question marks any day of the year. Any day. The only fact provided by Mr. Matheson was facility availability. And it's true. The facilities are largely unavailable right now. So just say that. Just say that. I'm a little hot and bothered here today, obviously. I usually come in here pretty good spirits. I'll be fine in a minute. Let's get this off my chest. But listen, so facility concerns and availability. That's a fact. Everything else was feelings. Mm-hmm. And yet, the American Legion based their decision on a bunch of feelings. The fact, though, is facility concerns and availability on those facilities. Most of them owned by a city or a school. And so there are lease arrangements, rentals, maybe some are given, that need to be, but they're still formalized, even in that way, that need to be ironed out, and they can't be right now because schools are shut down until July 1st at a minimum. And cities are, generally wimps anyway, so they are likely not entertaining those thoughts. So just say that. Mm-hmm. Just give the fact. Because we all know that health is important. For crying out loud, we hear about the health. Those of us that have been involved in sports our whole life can tell you countless stories about how the flu ripped through a team right before the playoffs. Or something else happened where a bunch of people on the team caught something, came down with something, got tangled up in somebody's girlfriend dumping them. Whatever it was. That's all happened. So that's always a concern. Don't put it in that release. All right, Steve, I had enough. So, Steve, the American Legion baseball season is canceled. It will not happen this year. I believe they jumped the gun. I just think if they would have waited, Steve, just a couple weeks. Yep. We're 2 weeks into golf in Wisconsin. Everything's going fine. Yep. We're out there. We're participating, playing sports. Everything's going fine. I think there's going to be some other things that happen here. But let's just stay with golf. Let's stay with a fact. We know golf has happened for 2 weeks. The Legion waits just 2 more weeks. We got a full month of golf under our belt. And if people aren't dropping like flies on the golf course, I think we got a shot at it. But the season's canceled this year. Yeah,
and it's like you said, they could have waited. I mean, the first scheduled game for the Wisconsin Rapids team wasn't until June 9th. And so they had plenty of time to wait to see what other things might be happening. Just going, as you mentioned, through this statement, Wisconsin has the 4th largest American Legion program in the country. Minnesota canceled theirs yesterday or the day before. Mm-hmm. Nebraska and Pennsylvania, I haven't looked them up yet, but just to take that away from kids that weren't able to play high school spring sports and be able to not be able to play during the summer. Obviously a lot of disappointed people, but as you mentioned, just a very very inadvertent, quick decision made. We knew it was most likely coming, but it never makes it easier. Knowing that it was going to happen never makes it easier to have this happen. And I saw something on Facebook the other day. This woman put on commented that baseball is the only sport that her kids play. They weren't able to play during the spring. They aren't able to play during the summer. And so it's just tough to see how quickly these decisions were made. Obviously, they took a while to figure it out, but it's just one of those things that, especially for baseball, there's 9 players, obviously, on the field. The only thing that would get me would be in the dugouts, but these kids are in a group of non-invasive, problematic people to get the COVID. So it's just very, very disappointed, but hopefully he'll be back next year. Hoping so.
Yeah, hopefully, if somebody's feelings don't get in the way. Yeah. And the last point I'll make on this, and we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers schedule and some other stuff here today, but the last point I'll make on this, and I'll be done talking about it, Because I doubt what I'm going to say is going to change anything. I believe Mr. Matheson has probably been to Fleet Farm in the last 2 months. Or if he hasn't, Mr. Matheson, hear me now. I go to Fleet Farm a lot, right? Fleet Farm and I were BFFs before you could be a BFF. That's how far back Fleet Farm and I go. And I've been there routinely over the last 2 months, getting my garden started. So seeds, dirt, some tools, some other things, lawn chairs, a table, chocolate-covered peanuts by the case, all right? A great snack section, candy section at Fleet Farm. And people are packed into Fleet Farm by the hundreds. I'm standing in the checkout area, and they got these stupid X's on the floor that nobody stands on. And we're all standing there. Now, 2 months has been going on. I don't think that on a baseball field we're going to get any closer, nowhere near what the proximity to me and the rest of the Fleet Farm people get. And you can fill in the blank with whatever store you like to go to. It makes no sense. All right. Green Bay Packers have a schedule, and the NFL has continued on with their planning. We just had the NFL draft 2 weeks ago, and then on Thursday, it's really an annual tradition, Steve. Right after that, nowadays, right after that, there were a couple years where they would announce the schedule prior to the draft. The NFL is always tinkering with things. See, we put this here, what happens there? We put this here, what happens then? And nowadays, though, the schedule comes out after the draft. It just keeps that talk, and here we are talking about the NFL. It keeps that talk going almost 365 days a year. And you could talk about something every day of the year. But this last Thursday, the NFL schedule came out, and the NFL said they fully plan on playing as scheduled. Good for them. Good for them. And so the schedule came out Thursday, maybe before we get into the Packers. But schedule day released on Thursday. You find anything interesting when it came out on Thursday?
Well, just that the first 4 games, I mean, the first month of the season, we talked about it, and it's been talked about all over, is that they were expecting the first 4 games to be non-conference games, and Packers' first game is at Minnesota. I mean, Roger Goodell told all the teams to don't play the hypothetical game. We're gonna go as scheduled. And so, besides that, just that Green Bay has a bye week in Week 5, and that is not not ideal.
It's early.
Pretty early. It's usually a tradition for the Giants and Cowboys to play Week 1. They're not playing Week 1. And so, the Packers have a pretty tough first handful of games at Minnesota, which could either be very good for the Packers if no fans are allowed, because that place gets very loud. So Packers-Vikings, then they host the Lions. They have to go to New Orleans to face off with Drew Brees and the Saints. They have 3 NFC South games in a row, kind of, besides the bye week. They do get Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after their bye week, and so give them an extra couple days to get ready for Tom Brady. The only other thing big, they host Minnesota on November 1st. That's Week 8. And then they have to turn right around and go to Santa Clara and take on the 49ers, which, as we saw last year, is not very good for Packers fans. And just going off the draft, the Packers didn't get any better. And so they didn't go after their needs. And so the final half of their schedule is relatively positive. They host the Jaguars, go to the Colts. The 4 of their final 6 games are in Green Bay, which is very helpful. They haven't had that in quite a long time. They finish off their season in Chicago. They don't see the Bears until Week 12, and then they see them twice there at the end of the season, Week 12 and Week 17. Very good primetime game against the Titans 2 days after Christmas. And so it's going to be a tough schedule, but it never isn't a tough schedule. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars, which hopefully looking at the Jaguars will be an easier win. But other than that, there's a very tough. They have the NFC South and the AFC South. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So NFC South and AFC South for the Packers. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. Probably not a 13-3 season like they were last year.
It's interesting. We mentioned the tradition of the schedule coming out, and some people, including me, set a reminder on their phone, their calendar. The schedule comes out, and you don't want to miss it. It's become a thing where everybody lines up to find out what's going on. They're making maybe travel arrangements. Even now, I know some people have. They're getting lined up so they can start to make their predictions. Mm-hmm. And another tradition with this schedule are these schedule leaks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, leaks come from all over the place, and you have no idea what's true because they're coming from all over, and there's 10 of them, and they all contradict each other. And it was former ESPN NFL guy John Clayton who came out the day before and said, "Yep, I know it." Right? And so, right, I know it. But the first four games are all going to be AFC, NFC games, and that turned out to be completely false as far as that's concerned. But one thing to kind of imagine, as Steve alluded to there a little bit, will there be fans allowed in these places? We don't know. They haven't decided that yet, and how that would all work. So let's imagine a world where there aren't fans, or maybe. And they could phase these things in. Maybe those first four games there are no fans, and then something else happens after that. But no fans. Do they still play the music? Do they still play Go Pack Go? Do they? I mean, what? I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't seem to fit, but it's something just to think about. Is how that all may work. But as Steve said, the Packers are at Minnesota, so that phony skull chant won't happen during that game. The Lions. Week 2 at New Orleans, and that so you got two Thunderdomes, right? In those first 3 weeks, that probably at this point it doesn't appear as though there'll be anybody there to make any noise. And then Atlanta, interesting about Atlanta, and that's a Monday night game. I believe Steve, you said that Monday night game in Green Bay against Atlanta. Atlanta was just horrible the first half of last year. They were just horrible. And then all of a sudden, a little too late for them, but all of a sudden they started to perk back up and got things going the right way. And are they able to carry that over? So the first four games, tough first four.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Atlanta Falcons kind of remind me of the San Francisco Giants in baseball. They're either really, really good and make a run at the World Series, or they're very, very bad. And that's
they were both last year.
Yeah, and that's what the Falcons were. So Packer fans should be happy if they finish 2-2 in that first four games. I mean, obviously all depending, as you mentioned, on if there are fans in the Superdome or at US Bank Stadium. So first four games, they have two primetime games, Sunday night against the Saints and then Monday night against the Falcons. So Packers, one of a handful of teams that have 5 primetime games. That's as many as you can have in a season. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of surprises with those primetime games. Obviously, the Buccaneers with Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski now have 5. But also the New England Patriots have 5.
Well, of course.
5 primetime games. So Jared Stidham and company are going to have their hands full in primetime. So Buccaneers have to play the Kansas City Chiefs. That'll be another good one. Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady going at it. So, just a lot of very interesting matchups and a lot of good early matchups as well.
The NFL knows how to draw a crowd, and so the New England Patriots have a real possibility of a huge dumpster fire this year, and the NFL doesn't care about that. They care about drawing a crowd, at least TV-wise anyway, and that has that possibility there. The Patriots do this year. An obscure fact that I happened across during the weekend as well is that the Buccaneers and the Patriots only play at the same time over the course of the 17-week schedule twice. So I guess what they're saying is the NFL, and able to draw a crowd, is that Patriots fans are still going to fill the TV airwaves when the Buccaneers are playing, and then vice versa, to kind of watch each other's experiment at this point in time. But that was an interesting scheduling note. As Steve mentioned, Packers, one of, I believe, 5 teams that have the maximum of 5 primetime games. The Dallas Cowboys, who I am a huge fan of, as it turns out, also play on Thanksgiving, so I like to think they have 6 primetime games, but whatever. 6 times that I know Packers fans would love to watch the Cowboys lose, so that's how that is viewed in most parts around here. And again, you're listening to the Zaleski Sports Show on 1320 AM WFHR and 1450 AM WDLB. Free agent news, not a whole lot yet. It brought up the Cowboys, and I will continue talking about them because it's worth noting. If you're an NFL fan, you should know this information, and just take your hatred away from the Cowboys just for a minute. But they have been, since the beginning, just wild on signing free agents. I mean, they really are outpacing everybody. What does it mean? I have no idea. It is a fact, though. Gerald McCoy signing Clinton Dix earlier, and I know Packer fans laughed about that when that happened. Greg Zerline, kicker. Don Terry Poe, defensive tackle. That one was somewhat recent, I thought. Mm-hmm. Alden Smith. That's a reclamation project there. And then we talked about Andy Dalton, and there's a few others that I won't mention. They're not exactly household names. But the Cowboys have been signing free agents left and right, and apparently sight unseen, because you can't technically have these guys come out to your place.
Well, and that's kind of what you need with a new head coach, with Mike McCarthy walking in the door, taking over, have a familiar face with Clinton Dix, and kind of an offensive quote-unquote guru is Mike McCarthy taking the Packers to the Super Bowl and winning with Aaron Rodgers. 15 guys on that team were on the injured reserve when he was there, when they went to the Super Bowl. So kind of just faded away, obviously, with the poor season that he ended with the Packers. But, that going after the guys that they need, they have a very formidable offense with Dak and Ezekiel and the wide receivers they got, and just boostering that defense is what they did in free agency. And Cowboys, I don't think the Eagles, obviously the Redskins won't be there, and the Giants probably won't be very good again.
No,
so it's the Cowboys division to lose, as it has been for the last 25 years. So, but they heard something last week that they ranked in the top 5 or top 10 in offense, ranked in the top 5, top 10 in defense, and they finished 8-8. And so
still didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was one of the first times I think that has happened for an NFL team in history.
Yeah, there is such a thing as bringing in too many new faces, and so on the other side of that, the Cowboys are probably right on that line right now, bringing in too many. Sometimes it takes 1, 2, 3 years for those people to all come together and come together as a team. All right, moving on. It is golf as you have never seen before. Right here at Zaleski Sports, we have, we're a week and a half into live golf from Holmes River Edge and from Marshfield Country Club, both Marshfield area golf courses, hosting us, and proudly so. And we've been having a good time. We broadcast golf during the week, and we've been having a good time with that. A lot of people are coming in and watching, and you should too if you are working from home. And we always do the air quotes there, working from home, or if you happen to be out of work right now. We are here to entertain you. Either way, it's available to everybody. It's free broadcast, and you watch the broadcast on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. And we are at Marshfield Country Club today. Broadcast begins at 5:30. And it is league night at Marshfield Country Club, so we look forward to that. We get a little bit more of the skilled golfer variety on league night. We saw some fantastic league play on Thursday last week out at Holmes River Edge. We had a number of birdies on the par 3, number 7. We had a 70-yard chip in. It was fantastic what we saw on League Night Thursday. So the league now will participate, probably slightly different members, but still the same. So live golf today at 5:30, and you can watch it live on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. Steve, you've had a chance to watch and announce on Saturday, a day that was nice and then got cold as the day went on, but golf as you have never seen before.
Yeah, and it's, as we mentioned, doesn't really matter what your skill set is. I took a whack at it, and Lucas Holheisel, our producer, took a whack at it, and it's safe to say that I wasn't obviously the best, but I wasn't the worst one on the course from what we've seen. But as I mentioned on Saturday, it's just nice to be able to get outside,
yes.
Breathe in some fresh air. Even if you're not a good golfer, go out with your friends, go out with your family. Tee times are always available, so just call into Holmes River's Edge or Marshfield Country Club. Marshfield Country Club, absolutely beautiful golf course. I haven't been to Holmes before, or haven't been to Holmes yet, but that looks fantastic on the just watching it. So just a lot of fun to be out there. As you mentioned, Saturday about what did we get out there? 10:45 between 10:45 and about 12:45. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And then the clouds started thickening up and the wind started blowing, and then it got a little bit colder, and obviously with the weather that we've had the last couple of days hasn't been ideal, but this week and then next week is supposed to be absolutely gorgeous. Next weekend, just get out, especially with not really anything else to do or allowed to do. Golf is one of those things that you can always enjoy, again, no matter what your skill set, no matter how good or how poorly you are on the golf course.
And it's all the above. There's no doubt about it. Tee times available all week long at both Holmes River Edge and Marshfield Country Club. Again, it's league night tonight at 5:30. We'll be live on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. Watch some of the best league members at Marshfield Country Club. But tee times available all day today and throughout the week. And a couple reasons that, like Steve mentioned, get out, play some golf, have some fun, get some fresh air. Who cares if you're good at it or not? Just get out there and enjoy it. And you might be on Zaleski Sports. That's the other benefit to that whole ordeal. And we look forward to doing it. And then we will take a brief break on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then it'll be league night again on Thursday at Marshfield Country Club. And then we'll be out Friday now. So Friday is that day, especially if you're looking for a nice day. It looks like a fairly decent day on Friday. And that would be a day where the general public is allowed every day. But Friday would be the first day that the general public would appear on the broadcast. So we look forward to that. And then we will head over to River Edge after that. So we'll be at both golf courses this week. We were at last week, and we'll continue to alternate between the two of them until we get kicked out. That's what's going to happen there. All right, Steve. So I mentioned it was Mother's Day yesterday, and that is a fact, because this is a fact-based show. And NASCAR, through my lifetime, does not race on Mother's Day. The Southern boys love their mamas, and everybody does, but the folks in the South just have a special affection for mama. So they don't race on Sundays, on Mother's Day. So what that means is this year there was no race yesterday, and there was no race yesterday because of a couple other things too. But racing is coming back. Yeah,
and it's going to be a whole week filled of racing on the Fox TV stations, FS1, starting today or this morning at 1 a.m. It said. NASCAR 1994 Coca-Cola 600. So they have a whole lot of older races. Wednesday, they have 2013 Auto Cup 400. So they have all sorts of replays of their some of the best races previously, and that all leads up to Sunday afternoon at 3:30 or 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the first real race since all this went down. NASCAR at Darlington in South Carolina. So and they race, I believe, 7 races in 10 days or something between their normal series and the trucks and the Xfinity series, which is the one down from the Cup. So getting a lot of races in a very short amount of time, but I don't think these guys care at all. They want to be out on the track and don't want to be cooped up in their house in their very, very nice iRace simulators and everything like that. Right. So obviously no fans, but and racing at 2 racetracks, Darlington and at Charlotte Speedway. So all the replays are on Fox Sports 1 and coming back on Sunday on Fox. So 2:30, it's going to be a good time. Obviously, the weather being nicer next weekend. Don't know how many people are going to be sitting inside watching NASCAR, but it's one of those things. UFC came back this last weekend. NASCAR's coming back. So it's just one of those things that'd be nice to watch live sports again. It's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday afternoon.
And I had hoped that the American Legion here in Wisconsin could have took a lesson from that, but they, as you heard at the beginning of the show, they jumped the gun, and we regret their decision bigly. All right, I mentioned the live golf schedule this week as we bring today's show in for a landing, and golf on Monday, Thursday, Friday, and beyond. Wednesday, watch out for this, as we will be assisting the Stratford School District on Wednesday night and helping with their senior awards night. So you can watch the awards show live as Mr. Winch and Mrs. Laborde announce senior awards at Stratford High School with the help of Zaleski Sports, and we very much look forward to that and helping them and anybody else who wants some help. We can certainly help you out. So for Steve Maves, Jason Zaleski here telling you to have a great week. Go Sports.